Hi writing class, welcome back to another lesson. I hope you all had a great long weekend. So what we're going to be doing today is looking at lesson 39, part D. So we're going to be writing a story. So I'll read what it says in our book. Let's look at part D. The pictures in part D show how the story begins and how it ends, but the pictures don't show what happened between the beginning and the ending. Right, so if we're looking at part D, right, we can see that there is our first sentence that we're going to use for the beginning of our story, which is 3 brothers wanted to buy their mother a computer for her birthday. Then we have an image, right? We have Tony, Josh, and Kevin. And then each boy says some exact words. So Tony says, "That's the computer Mom likes." Josh says it costs $999. And then Kevin says, "But we only have $400. So what you're going to want to do in the first half of the story, right? This is the first sentence that we're going to write. And then we're going to write what each boy said. Don't forget, each time a new person speaks, we have to start a new paragraph and indent. Then we have the second half of our story. We have our first sentence, right? Next to the computer store was an office that helped people find jobs, right? And then we have a picture that shows how the story will end. What we don't know is what happens in the middle of the story. But to help you write that, we have some questions, right? You could write about how did the boys find jobs? You could write about how much money did the boys earn? You could write about how did they spend all their money when they bought the computer? Or you could write about what did their mother say when she saw her present? Right underneath the 4 boxes, we have some key words to use, right? We have the words stared, extra, sign, earned, bought, birthday card, wrapped, proud, excited, right? So we don't have to use all of these words, but we could use a few of them in our story to help us. And then we also have 4 checks. So before we're going to start writing our story, let's go over the 4 checks. Each check tells us one thing that we have to make sure to include in our story. Check 1 says, is each sentence punctuated correctly? Don't forget to start each sentence with a capital letter and end with an end mark, right? So that could be a period or a question mark. Also, don't forget that each person's name we have to capitalize, and then if somebody says exact words, we need to have quotation marks. Check 2 says, are there any unclear words in your paragraphs? Remember, before we can use the words he, she, they, or it, we first have to name the person or the people or the objects in the previous sentence. If we don't do that, the word will be unclear. Check 3 asks us, did you tell all the important things that must have happened? Remember, in the first image and in the last image, right, we want to describe all the important things that must have happened. In the middle of the story, that's where you can be creative and make up what happened. And then check 4 asks us, did you write at least 4 paragraphs? Remember, each time a new person speaks, we need to start a new paragraph. Since there are 3 people speaking, we need to have at least 3 paragraphs in our first half of the story. This will be the beginning of the second half of the story, right? So we're going to have to indent right where it says next, and then you can make up the ending of your story. We will need at least 4 paragraphs in this story. So what I want you guys to do is help me write the first half of our story, and then, right, so we're going to begin our first half of our story with this sentence, and we're going to describe this first picture. Then I want you guys to start the second half of your story by indenting right where it says next, and then you can answer any of these questions about the middle half of the story right? You can make up what they did, you can be very creative, but we have to make sure that our story ends or that when we describe how our story ends, it is using this picture to help us write that, right? So we can only make up the middle half of the story. The ending, we're going to report on this picture, and the beginning, we're going to report on this picture. So if we look, I have here, I've written down the beginning of our first half of the story. 3 brothers wanted to buy their mother a computer for her birthday. I remember to indent, and now I need to look at the image in the second box to help me write my next 3 paragraphs. Or my next paragraphs. Remember, each time a new person speaks, I have to start a new paragraph and indent. Right, so I'm going to start maybe with Tony. 3 brothers wanted to buy their mother a computer for her birthday. Tony said, comma, quotation marks, right? That's the computer Mom likes. Likes, remember to put your quotation marks around the exact words. Just like that, right? I don't have to indent before Tony because no one said anything before in the previous sentence. But now we have Tony said, comma, quotation marks, that's the computer Mom likes, period, and then I have my closing quotation marks. The next person that can speak can be Josh. But what I have to make sure is to start a new paragraph when Josh speaks because he's a new speaker. So I can write, Josh said, comma, and then what he said is, it costs $999. So I'm going to put that in quotation marks. Just as a tip, remember the first word that comes after the quotation marks has to begin with a capital letter, right? I have my capital I, here I have my capital T. So don't forget that. Period, and then my quotation marks, just like that, right? Josh was a new person speaking, so I had to indent and start a new paragraph. And now our last person is Kevin. Once again, since he's a new person speaking, I'm going to have to indent my paragraph, and then I'm going to have to start a new paragraph. So Kevin said, comma, quotation marks, but we only have $400. Period, closing quotation marks. So, right, so in my first half of the story, I'll put a line here to show my one paragraph. Then we have Tony saying something. Then a new person is speaking, so I have my second paragraph. And then I have, once again, a new person speaking. I indented and started my third paragraph. What you guys are going to do now is start the second half of your story. So you're going to indent once again, and then you're going to write the sentence, next to the computer store was an office that helped people find jobs. And then you're going to write the middle half of the story. Use those questions to help you create the middle half of the story. Be creative, right? You can make up things. And then you're going to look at the last picture, and then that's how the story will end. So if you guys have any questions, please let me know. Keep up the awesome work, and I'll see you in our next lesson. Bye.